All right, you sent us down a truly wild rabbit hole this time. Forget what you learned in school. This is history's unhinged side.
Agree softly.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Lifespan.
Today, our bizarre journey dives into the, frankly untamed saga of Rosaleen Norton.
Also known as the Witch of King's Cross.
Exactly. We're talking mid-century Australia, like a cult acid trip starring this whip-smart artist.
Yeah, painting demons, communing with spirits, getting arrested, the works.
And maybe, just maybe, kind of nudging open a dark dimension, all while chain-smoking in a Sydney back alley.
It sounds incredible, doesn't it? But the testimonies paint a vivid picture.
She didn't just ruffle feathers in 1950s Australia, she practically hexed the whole conservative vibe.
She really did. A total clash of cultures.
So this bizarre journey is all about unpacking who she was and, why her life caused such an absolute stir.
Well, what's really fascinating, just looking at the material you provided, is how unlikely she seems in that specific time and place.
It wasn't just like personal weirdness. It was that weirdness hitting a brick wall of conformity. Bang.
Okay, so let's get into it. The witch arrives. Who was Rosaleen Norton before all the notoriety? Where did she start?
Well, she was born in Dunedin, New Zealand. That was back in 1917.
Okay.
And the testimonies you shared,
Yeah.
wow, they really suggest someone who was different right from the start.
How so?
We're talking psychic visions claimed from age 4, painting monsters when she was like 7.
7. Not quite drawing kittens and houses then.
Not exactly, no. And then getting expelled from Catholic school.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. For drawing what? Centaurs and demons?
That's the one. I mean, that right there tells you something, doesn't it? A fundamental clash. An inherent, unconventional spirit.
You'd think Catholic school would have some room for imaginative beasts, but I guess not those beasts.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
It just highlights how early she diverged from, the norm. And she wasn't apologizing for it.
So the family moves to Sydney. Did she tone it down then? Try to fit in a bit more?
Doesn't seem like it. Her art, well, it didn't exactly go mainstream. Instead of landscapes, the focus shifted to, and I love how one testimony put it, horny goat gods with erections.
Okay. So definitely not aiming for the suburban art prize.
Definitely not.
How did the art world, like the establishment, react to that? Did she try art school?
She did, yeah. Briefly studied at East Sydney Technical College. But, again, it didn't stick.
Kicked out again.
Pretty much. Deemed too disturbing, not aesthetic enough. And one source specifically noted too much pan.
Too much pan. I mean, that's almost a badge of honor, isn't it?
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
It just shows her vision was way outside what they considered, acceptable art.
So fast forward to 1940s. She ends up in King's Cross. That place had a bit of a reputation even then, didn't it? Sydney's bohemian, red light kind of district.
Absolutely. King's Cross was, and maybe still is to some extent, a magnet for artists, eccentrics, people on the fringes. It was the space where someone like Rosaleen could, well, maybe breathe a little easier.
Find her tribe, maybe.
Perhaps. It certainly became the backdrop for her really stepping into that identity. Artist, medium, and, practicing witch.
Complete with the black cat.
The testimonies mention a black cat, yeah.
Yeah.
And also some familiarity with narcotics, apparently. It all adds to the image.
Okay, let's paint the picture for everyone listening. 1950s Australia. What was the vibe? Because it sounds like Rosaleen was this explosion of color in a very gray world.
That's a really good way to put it. You had the Menzies government, long-serving, very conservative.
Right.
Social conservatism was huge. Conformity was prized. There was a real push to clamp down on anything seen as subversive.
Like what? Communism was a big fear then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, huge fear of communism. But also obscenity, counterculture, anything that challenged the status quo. Moral panic was definitely in the air.
So basically everything Rosaleen Norton embodied.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Jazz music, beatniks, any open talk about sex, all viewed with deep suspicion.
And women's roles were super rigid, I imagine.
Incredibly. Wife, secretary, nurse, those were the boxes. The idea of a woman summoning Pan, painting orgies, holding seances.
Unthinkable.
Completely unthinkable for most people back then.
So into this repressed society walks Rosaleen, barefoot, chain-smoking, wearing robes maybe?
Often, yeah. Holding seances in these candlelit rooms. Testimonies mention phallus sculptures, nude demon paintings everywhere.
Wow. She wasn't just eccentric, she was actively challenging everything. Like that phrase you highlighted, weaponized weirdness.
That phrase nails it, I think. It wasn't passive. It felt deliberate, confrontational even. Her whole existence was a challenge to the way things were.
And the reaction was Predictable, I guess, but extreme.
Swift and, yeah, often brutal. Massive police raids on her place.
Raids, just for her art and
For
beliefs.
obscenity, primarily linked to the art. It led to national obscenity trials. Front-page tabloid stuff.
What kind of headlines?
Things like sex priestess of Satan. The media just ran with it, creating this huge, scary image. They really did. And what came out of that, out of all the scandal and sensationalism, was this powerful, lasting myth.
Where the line blurred completely.
Exactly. Between the, eccentric artist and this genuinely dark, sorceress figure. It tapped into existing fears and just blew her up into this legend. Both fascinating and terrifying for people.
Okay, so that brings us neatly to the theories swirling around her. Because when someone lives that far outside the lines, people try to make sense of it, right?
Inevitably, yeah.
Theory number one, the big one, Satanist. Did she worship the devil?
Well, based on the testimonies you found, the answer seems pretty clearly no. Rosaleen herself apparently hated that label.
Really?
Yeah, she rejected the whole good versus evil thing that Satanism kind of relies on. Her spirituality was different.
So all the devils and demons in her paintings.
That wasn't about, like, pledging allegiance to Lucifer. Her main focus, according to the material, was Pan.
The Greek god, Mr. Hooves and Pipes.
That's him. God of nature, the wild, chaos, lust, male virility, all that untamed stuff.
So more pagan.
Much more aligned with neo-paganism, yeah.
Yeah.
And also philema.
Aleister Crowley's system, do what thou wilt.
Exactly. That core idea really resonated with her, you can imagine. It's about embracing your instincts, your whole self, not flipping Christian morality on its head.
One source said her motto is basically, vibe with your demons.
Which captures it perfectly, I think. Integration, not necessarily worship of evil.
So why did the Satanist tag stick so hard in the press? Just lazy reporting. Clickbait for the 1950s.
I think that was a huge part of it. Her imagery, yeah, it had devils. It was often grotesque, plus the whole sex magic thing.
Which sounds inherently scandalous.
Right. It was easy to twist that into devil worship for headlines. It fit people's fears about moral decline, simpler than trying to understand, paganism or thelema.
Yeah.
It let them just label her as evil and move on.
Dismiss her rather than engage. Makes sense. Okay, let's get weirder. Theory 2. Her paintings weren't just paintings, they were portals.
Ah, yes. This is where things get really out there. And the line between art, belief, and maybe something else gets very, very blurry.
She claims she was in a trance when she painted.
She did. Altered states, she called them. Sometimes felt like she was possessed or guided by a spirit.
A familiar spirit, like a witch's companion.
Exactly. She called it Karana. This entity, Karana, was apparently a big part of her creative process, according to her.
And the art itself. You mentioned DMT comparisons earlier.
Yeah, the descriptions are intense. Twisted, surreal, inhuman figures, almost biomechanical sometimes. And yes, people later compared them to DMT visuals, decades before that was common knowledge.
Suggesting she was tapping into something, another reality.
That's the implication, yeah. That she was seeing things from other realms, maybe, and just painting what she saw.
So the act of painting wasn't just expression, it was opening a door. Is there any, evidence for this portal idea, apart from her own claims?
Well, evidence is tricky, but the testimonies include these weird anecdotes. A journalist claiming the paintings hummed.
Hummed? Seriously?
Yeah, that's what they reported. Also, rooms suddenly getting cold when her art was there. People fainting at her exhibitions.
Fainting? Okay, that's dramatic. Could that just be shock value, though? Her stuff was pretty confronting.
It absolutely could be. Shock, maybe suggestion, who knows. But these stories definitely fuel the idea that there was more going on than just paint on canvas.
You have to admit, it builds the mystique.
It absolutely does. Again, totally anecdotal, no scientific proof, but it definitely adds a layer to her whole enigma.
Leaves her in that spooky space between art, belief, and the totally unexplained. Which brings us to theory 3, a conspiracy. She was targeted by a secret occult cabal.
Right, this sounds like a thriller plot. It mostly centers around that 1955 scandal with Sir Eugene Goossens.
The famous conductor, what was the connection?
Goossens was caught importing stuff customs deemed obscene. Pornography, basically, but also occult materials. And a lot of it was linked back to Rosaleen.
Linked how? Were they friends? Collaborators? Lovers?
The exact nature of their relationship isn't crystal clear from the testimonies, but there was definitely a connection. When Goossens got busted, it was huge news. Ruined his career.
Okay. And the theory is, Rosaleen was involved. How? Was she set up?
That's one version.
Yeah.
That she was framed somehow. Or the even wilder version
Go on.
is that she willingly offered him up, like a magical sacrifice or something.
Oh, okay, that is wild. Is there anything to back that up?
Your sources are pretty clear. Absolutely no concrete evidence for either the setup or the sacrifice theory. It's pure speculation.
So maybe just two unconventional people who knew each other, and when one got caught in the conservative crosshairs?
The other got dragged in, too.
Yeah.
That seems much more plausible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just association in a very judgmental time.
And how did Rosaleen react to all this? Being linked to a major scandal, the conspiracy theories.
From what we can tell, she basically shrugged it off and kept painting, defiant as ever, seemingly unfazed by the pressure or the gossip.
You kind of have to admire the nerve. Okay, let's talk legacy. How did things end up for her? And how do people see her now? From satanic priestess to what?
Well, her life was definitely tough during those peak years. Art banned, constant obscenity trials, denied entry to the U.S. as a threat to morality.
Threat to morality. Wow.
Yeah, constant police surveillance. It was relentless. But instead of backing down, the testimonies suggest she kind of leaned into the myth they were creating about her.
Embraced the notoriety.
Seems like it. And today, it's a very different picture.
How so? Is her art recognized now?
Oh, yeah. It's sold in galleries, collected underground, and there's been this huge reevaluation. People see her now as a kind of proto-feminist figure.
Proto-feminist? How?
The thinking is she took all those things society used to control women, mysticism, sexuality, the irrational, and she weaponized them, turned them into sources of power in a super patriarchal, repressed society.
Flipping the script. Using their weapons against them.
Exactly. And that recent documentary, The Witch of King's Cross, really helped bring her story to a wider audience, fostering a more nuanced view.
And modern occultists reference her.
They do, yeah. She's seen as this pioneering figure in certain circles.
So she went from public enemy number one to counterculture icon.
In a lot of ways, yes. Her name pops up in feminist discussions, queer art theory, Australian history. And then there's the online fandom.
Fandom?
Yeah, apparently quite active online communities who believe her spirit is still hanging around King's Cross, influencing things. The myth lives on very strongly.
From moral panic to ghost influencer, that's quite a trajectory. Okay, we need to hit some of those truly bizarre wait what moments. The testimonies were gold mines for these.
Oh, definitely. These are the little details that just make her story even stranger, even more unique.
Okay, first one. She apparently married her familiar spirit, Karana. Not metaphorically, but like for real.
Yeah, according to the sources, she viewed it as a genuine soul-bonding ritual, a real spiritual marriage.
What does that even mean practically?
It just speaks volumes about how deeply she lived within her own belief system. You know, it wasn't just ideas or art. It was her reality, a real partnership with this entity.
Way beyond just an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
At her apartment, painted floor to ceiling with symbols and phalluses.
That's the description. Her whole place was apparently an extension of her art and beliefs. Sigils, phallic imagery everywhere celebrating Pan, sexuality, life force.
And when the landlord complained.
Her reported response was just legendary. Speak to Pan about it.
Incredible. Just pure audacity. I love it.
Doesn't get much more defiant than that.
Then there's the story of the teenager who stole the painting and claimed it cursed his family.
Yes. It really shows the power her reputation held, doesn't it? Whether it was a real curse or just fear and guilt doing their work, people believed she had that kind of power. The psychological impact was huge.
And the police burning the plates for her book because of a drawing called Faux Hat.
Yeah, a deity with an erect penis and a worshipping woman. Too much for the authorities. They destroyed the printing plates.
And her response.
Classic Rosaleen. They got small minds and smaller penises.
Ouch. Iconic, though. Absolutely savage.
Cutting, wasn't it? No shame, just defiance.
Okay, last one, and it's kind of disturbing. She bit a journalist who insulted her art.
Apparently so. And the journalist then claimed he had dreams of wolves for weeks.
Okay, that's memorable. Primal. Was it real? A psychological thing? Coincidence?
Who can say? It just blurs that line again, doesn't it? Between the eccentric artist and something else. Every story about her seems to have that weird, unsettling twist.
It really does. So if our listeners are hooked and want to fall deeper into this bizarre world, where should they look? We pulled together a curiosity cabinet from your materials.
Okay, yeah. For books, the absolute essential is Neville Drury's Pan's Daughter, The Strange World of Rosaleen Norton. It's considered the key biography.
Anything more visual?
Yeah, there's great graphic novel Witch of the Cross by Marie Coode. Really well researched, captures the style.
And documentaries. You mentioned one earlier.
The Witch of King's Cross. Sonia Bible directed it. Absolutely stunning, very immersive. Highly recommend. And there's an Culture podcast episode on YouTube that's pretty informative, too.
What about going to the source? Can you find, like, police reports or her actual art?
Amazingly, yes. The National Library of Australia has digitized some police reports about her and even some original artwork. Gives you a real sense of the time.
Wow.
And Trove, that's Australia's online newspaper archive, is where you find all those insane headlines from the 50s and 60s. It's quite the trip.
And if people want to brave the weirder corners of the internet?
Well, there's always Reddit. The occult subreddit has threads debating if she actually summoned demons. Approach with caution, maybe.
Chuckle slate.
Okay. The Hermetic Library blog has some more serious essays on her magical ideas. And on Twitter X, if you search Rosaleen mood boards in the occult art tags, you can find some interesting visual collections.
Okay, lots to explore there. So wrapping up this bizarre journey, Rosaleen Norton was clearly way more than just some oddball artist.
Oh, absolutely. She really comes across as this powerful symbol of defiance, doesn't she? That cosmic middle finger, quote, nails it. A middle finger to conformity, censorship, repression.
She just painted her truth, no matter how weird or shocking.
And owned it completely. Never backed down. Remained true to her own very unconventional vision.
And it leaves you with that big question, doesn't it? Was she really talking to spirits, opening portals? Or was her real magic just her incredible nerve in challenging such a rigid society?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And maybe the answer is both. Or that the line doesn't even matter that much. Her life itself is this incredible mix of myth, maybe madness, and undeniable magical rebellion.
Well, consider yourselves initiated into the world of the Witch of King's Cross. And as some of those testimonies hinted, maybe good luck getting out.